Hello and massive welcome to the latest episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. Now today we are being joined by Dave and Dom, and they are talking about how your health is your wealth, the importance of prioritising your health and how it helps your business to thrive. And I think, we hear this a lot, and I used to think it was really a bit cliched, and I'm like, no, my health is not my wealth. I've got to focus on my business, and actually that has really created massive health challenges for me. And Dave has been through his own version of this as well. So this is a really important topic that I wish someone had managed to get through my thick skull, a good 8 to 10 years ago, because actually the joy of building the business would have been so much easier along the way. So we are in the peak productivity section of the Property Lifestyle Mastery Blueprint today, and health habits fits alongside time and energy management and passion and creativity. So don't be how I was 8 to 10 years ago, thinking that I can ignore this and somehow think the business will be okay. This has to underlie everything that you're doing if you truly want your business to thrive, because your business is a representation of you. So over to the awesome Dave and Dom.
Hello, Dom.
Hello, Dave. So today's topic is health habits. What springs to mind when you think of that?
My gosh. This is massive. And actually, I'm just going to say, first of all, before I tell you what springs to mind, is that what didn't spring to mind years ago would have been like pretty much anything. Nothing would have sprung to mind. If you'd have said, what are your health habits? I'd have just thought, like maybe 5 to 10 years ago, I'd have just thought, oh, well, I don't really have any. I try not to eat too much. I do occasional runs, right? That would have been my mind would have gone to that. But right now, where I'm at right now, there's just so much that comes to mind when you say health habits. What are you doing?
I completely agree with you. I think there's, a lot of people, when you talk about health habits, they go, oh yeah, try not to eat too much, try to have less sugar, and do a bit of exercise. Walk around, maybe go for a run. That's sort of it. Whereas now, the depth and complexity and detail that people can go to is quite phenomenal. And then it's the impact. Ultimately, that's what we're aiming for. Is what's the impact that these health habits have on our lives? But yeah, so tell us where you were before and where you are now.
I'll start with where I am now. Where I am
the
now,
biggest changes you made.
Yeah. I just start with where I am now, Dom, because I think that's a more illuminating thing. Based on everything I've changed over the last three years or so, I'm now the healthiest I've ever been. Easy to say, but what does that actually mean? That means I'm the lightest, kind of most ideal weight that I could be. I'm also haven't been ill, like actually ill. I haven't had a cold or a cough or a flu type thing for about a year and a half, apart from I got COVID in December. And that was one illness around December time, caught COVID, was out for a few days, and then was back again. But that's the only illness I've had for a year and a half, which compared to how it used to be is madness. It's amazing.
Were you back in England as well at that time?
I shockingly was. I'm back in the UK. So I've also never I have huge energy. I wake up early in the mornings, and I'm able to get going straight away. I can go long days without a worry. There's just so many things. You could take my skin's the best it's ever been. A very female comment there, but it is. It is like it just is.
That's really good. Yeah,
I look younger than I did 5 years ago. When I look at pictures on, it comes up on on phone on Apple. You get those nice little historical. I like to see what they show me every day, and I do look younger than I did 5 years ago. It's just it's amazing.
That's incredible.
What about you, Tom? Like that, I'll go into all the things I do, what we do, what I think has made the difference. But where are you right now?
Yeah, and so I guess impacts your business, and that's why it's so important to get it right. For me, health has always been quite an interesting and important aspect. A long time ago, when I didn't know what to do in my life, I actually became a personal trainer. I did a lot of exercise. In those days, I could recover an awful lot quicker than I can now. But then you kind of learn about your body and you become more sensitive to things in terms of exercise, as well as food, but also, sleep. recover after networking events or big days out or presentations and things like that. All of that comes into who you're being each day, which is around effectively your health habits. Where was I before? I was so unaware. The food that I put into my body, I didn't realize the stuff that made my energy drop. You and I week, and we learned a fantastic about using muscle testing effectively to work out whether or not a food is sort of good or bad for you on a scale of 1 to 10. And I've been using that, and it's fascinating to see which foods that naturally I kind of consciously knew weren't great for me, and now it's kind of like the proof my body's telling me. And so yeah, look, I'm going off on all sorts of different directions, but the point is, the more you learn about yourself and you fine tune your own health habits, the more each day, which you become more productive in work and get into flow better, and you've got more energy for that, and flow gives you more energy, and therefore you get more done and business goes better. So actually, it's not just what you do in the business, it's what you eat, it's what you exercise, your morning routines, your sleep. All of those things have a massive impact. So what are your top 3, Dave? What would you say the biggest changes that have made the biggest difference in your
biggest
life?
Changes? So change number 1 that I think is such an obvious one, but it is, I believe, a catalyst that people don't realize how powerful it is as catalyst. And it was us controlling our alcohol intake. It was a huge shift in our alcohol intake. I'm a big wino. I love wine. Anyone who knows me and hears me talk about it, it's like I'm a weirdo when it comes to wine. And so for me, having a glass of wine with the dinner was just an obvious, and I would do it a lot, and I'd do it regularly. So we were lucky that we, during COVID in 2020, found ourselves in South Africa, and it might be 2021 actually, South Africa, beginning of 2021, and they on the second round of lockdowns had a alcohol ban. We were in South Africa, they had an alcohol ban. You couldn't get it, couldn't buy it. So we had an enforced break from alcohol, and it was crazy what it did. And then it just started. We went for 1 month without alcohol. I then started drinking a little bit because I wanted my wine, but Jackie carried on for longer, and the catalyst of it was insane, because you don't realize it's not just the calories and the alcohol itself, but it's the impact for how much you eat when you drink, because it makes you more hungry, so you eat more. Then you also crave more sweet foods because they give you a bit of an energy boost. It lowers your inhibitions around any thoughts you do have around eating as well. The next morning it's harder to get up, so therefore you're less likely to get up and do any sort of exercise, and you've got the negative effects of alcohol anyway. It was a real catalyst for change in our lives, because every bit of healthy habit we wanted to input was being detrimentally impacted by our alcohol intake. Now, I don't nowadays not drink, but we just limit it. We just limit it to two days a week, max 3 days a week. And when we do drink, we limit it to amounts. We're just more controlled, but I notice it straight away. If I have too much alcohol, I see it 3 days later that my habits are worse across the board.
Wow. Gosh.
Crazy. So
Yes.
we have a big weekend where I've drunk a bit more than I'd planned on my 2 days or 3 days. I'll get to Tuesday and I'm thinking, gosh, I really can't, it's harder to get up still. And Wednesday, it's still harder to get up and do the morning routine that I want for my health. So that was the main one. The other one, a bit less description on them for you. One huge one for me is meditation.
Right.
And that is coming on to what we're going to talk about in a bit, I guess, is that the mental health side. Mental health has been huge for us, and realizing just what an impact that has on everything, your performance, your life. So the meditation has been huge for that. And then the last one I would put out there is proactive health specialists, going to see people. And you were just talking about muscle testing and what foods you have, going to see someone whose specialism is helping you to optimize your body, using things like muscle testing, chiropractic elements, a lot of the Eastern concepts, but someone, unlike the Western system of GPs, which is basically once you're ill, they'll give you a medicine. These guys work the other way around. They look at your body and they say, what is weakening, or what is weakening it? So what can we do to change right now to stop you getting ill? And once we started seeing someone like that, we found in 2016, we moved to Margate, and we found a new chiropractor there who is also a holistic health specialist, did all sorts of other things like muscle testing, applied kinesiology, and all sorts. And we just got healthier and healthier, and we quickly started overcoming illnesses quicker and quicker. It was so powerful. So yeah, those are my top 3.
Nice. And it is fascinating. I think, if people are getting ill several times a year, there's something wrong. There's food you're eating or things that you're doing that is making you weaker, as you say. So it's not normal for the human body to get ill. It's normal to be healthy and to recover quickly if you're optimized. And that's what good health habits will enable you to be, is optimized. Yeah. My top 3, the thing that I've noticed that has given me the most energy, so I'm going to maybe approach it from a slightly different angle, in terms of energy and mental clarity. One, I've learned about it probably nearly 3 years ago now, is intermittent fasting. So in short, stopping dinner sort of 6-7 p.m. and then not having breakfast until sort of 10, 11, possibly 12. The simple way of doing it is like, just don't eat before 12 o'clock. And then that way your body has a chance to effectively properly recover and flush out the toxins and other things that line the gut and stomach, and you don't have the blood sugar highs and lows in the afternoon that you otherwise might have if you'd had a cereal for breakfast, for example. That's very common. People fall asleep at 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon if you have cereal to start, because you're spiking your blood sugar levels. So intermittent fasting, 16-8 in terms of like the hours, so 8-hour eating window, 16-hour fasting, or possibly even 18-hour fasting. Intermittent fasting, massive one. That's number 1. Number 2 is actually a bit more recent. It's taking a probiotic. So probiotics and prebiotics feed off probiotics. Basically, it's the right bacteria for your gut. We used to have so much more because we had, fruits and vegetables and organic things, from nature. Now we have so much processed foods with preservatives and various other chemicals in there. We're not absorbing the food so well. We haven't got the gut microbiome, as it's called, the bacteria in your gut that keeps you healthy, keeps your immunity healthy, keeps your emotions in check. 95% of serotonin, which is a feel-good hormone, is made in your gut. So if you take a probiotic like I do, I'm not promoting anyone in particular, but there is one that I take in the morning. It's a little drink, and I take it on an empty stomach 10 minutes before any food. I mean, personally, I just take it and then I have some water and then a coffee. That does me as my intermittent fasting breakfast. So that one has made a massive difference. My clarity of mind is just off the scale compared to what it was. Yeah. So that's another good one. So probiotic, intermittent fasting, and I would say having, similar to you, although it's not meditation, it's a daily walk. A daily walk for at least an hour, sort of doing around 10,000 steps a day. Just in nature, breathing in some nice fresh air, getting sunshine on my face, having time to let the mind process. That is my sacred time and space. If I have that, everything goes an awful lot more smoothly and I feel good. And I sleep better as well, because, light on your face first thing in the morning in particular, with a walk, is great for your circadian rhythm. So those are my top 3.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm going to say intermittent fasting, we do that as well. We actually stopped it for a while and then came back to it. And we did it back in maybe 2021 for quite a long time. And then we stopped, came back to it within the last couple of months. And I feel the difference immediately. It's amazing. You talk about 16-hour breaks and not eating until 12. If anyone is used to eating 3 meals a day, once you start doing this, it only takes about a week to your body doesn't need it. You do not need 3 meals a day. It's just a wasted energy being spent processing foods. Yeah. So if you can get into that whole process, that habit, you tend to eat less. You tend to actually crave healthier foods as well, because your body is starting to realize, by having that proper rest, when you do come to eating, it starts to realize more intuitively what food is better for it, and it's broken the habit of what you normally do every morning, the cereal or the toast or whatever. So that's been super powerful for us. But one thing we do to bolster that, you have a coffee in the morning. We actually do a bulletproof coffee in the morning. Yes. I think you might do something similar. That's right. Bulletproof coffee is where you blend up your coffee with butter and MCT oil. And I think, Dom, you can't have butter, so you just use the MCT oil. That's right. extra fat boost for me, it's amazing. You just have it doesn't break the fast fully. It gets your body energized off of the right type of fat, which is fat that's the same as your fat that you're storing in your body. So it's actually training your body to eat off that fat. And then you can keep your intermittent fast going much longer and much easier. And some days I'll get to 2 o'clock. So I'll have my bulletproof at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'll get to 2 o'clock, a busy day of meetings and effort and brain, and I'll get to 2-3 o'clock. I wouldn't have eaten anything, and I'll feel great. And Jackie puts like a smoothie in front of me, or some food, and I'm like, oh yeah, food. What time is it? It's incredible. And I think you're right. It's been again a catalyst. We've lost our most weight both through alcohol, and then the secondary one is intermittent fasting.
Right.
It helps. It's so easy. Your health.
It literally is a miracle. There's almost no downsides to it. Obviously, it's slightly different for women and where they are on their cycle, but it is an important one that I think everyone would benefit from. Obviously, there are all sorts of cures and allergies and things like that. That's the thing. Allergies have got better. Less or in my case, no. What's it called? Air pollen stuff in the spring. I don't get hay fever anymore.
Wow.
And the sensitivity to cow's milk, because I'm dairy free, things like that, less affected because of the intermittent fasting. It helps the body recover properly. So loads of benefits that I definitely highly recommend everyone do it if they haven't already tried. Because here's the thing: people think, oh no, I get too hungry, I can't hack it. That hunger pang never lasts longer than 15 minutes. Just have some water, distract yourself, and it goes away. And then you can go for longer.
There's some great documentaries about it. If anyone hasn't ever read about it or heard about it, there's some brilliant documentaries that are on Prime, for example, and also an amazing books. And actually, Jackie has recently read 2 or 3 books on female intermittent fasting, particularly how to match it to her cycle. So that it benefits her, because actually it messes with your hormones. Intermittent fasting, it does adjust them, and there's times in a female cycle that it's not beneficial to do it too much, and there's times when it's beneficial to be more. So any women listening to this, do have a read of those books, because there's a different way to do it. It's incredible, these kinds of things. And what I wanted to just go on to out of the back of this was, you said something earlier, and I said something in one of my 3 was meditation, yours was walking. Happiness is one of the biggest outputs. And I didn't say it at the beginning, but I am right now the happiest I've ever been. But I'm doing it whilst building 3 businesses, and it's a lot going on, and there's all the stress of the economy at this time and whatever going on in the world. It doesn't matter. It's the health habits are what keep you on a good level playing field emotionally, so that whatever happens, you have the capacity, you have the resilience, you have this well of abundance of well-being, as it were, inside, that you can draw upon. And that if you do find things more challenging, that you aren't taken down by it. So I guess that would be one of my things I'd love to explore a bit more with you, is what have you found in terms of what health habits have been most beneficial to your well-being and happiness levels?
Yes. So definitely the walking, as you say, happy. That's what ultimately everyone wants, is to be happy. But we often get sort of maybe stuck in a limiting belief that maybe our job, we can never get out of it because we've got a house and a mortgage we have to pay for, and actually we can't jump out because we need that secure of income and everything else. So we have these limiting beliefs around what can stop us, and therefore life has to be this way, and it's only ever going to be at this level. When in fact that's not true. That is a limiting belief. And by becoming and optimizing your health habits, your happiness goes up, and you feel more energized and powerful, and almost nothing can stop you because you're feeling good, and also you know how to feel good. So your recovery from, I don't know, a down valuation or something that would normally knock you and knock you off your happiness level, you're able to recover quicker because you've got good habits. You've got your morning routine, you've got your meditation, you've got your healthy eating, you've got your intermittent fasting. All of those things contribute to raising that ceiling of how amazing life can be. So that's what I've seen in a number of clients that we worked with, and as well personally.
Yeah, and I would say I've noticed it with everyone. Say me for sure, and with people I work with, most people leave it until things get too bad to make this change. They literally wait until they're like, oh no, it's okay.
Burn
No, I
out.
do enough. I do enough. It's fine, you know. But they basically just carry on pretty much the same. They might just start doing something like having a probiotic in the morning, which by the way, I do as well, Dom. So or we have it at night. So yeah, they wait until it gets really bad. And then once they've hit rock bottom, because the health isn't quite good enough and the business is really starting to become very overwhelming, they haven't got the mindset habits in place and they're not really in healthy mindset or healthy body, they break down, and then finally they say, okay, I need to make a change. And that pain is the biggest motivator for change. Now, what I would say to anyone listening to this is, why not make that change now? Just be proactive with it. Start doing something a bit different, because it will make your life easier. It will keep you happier for longer. And yes, you might still get to a burnout at some point that you know where you haven't made enough change or haven't changed, something else needs to change, but that burnout will be quicker and it will be less bad. It will be easier to come out the other side. So making some sort of change now, I think is really anyone running a business, I think it's essential, because if you're running a business, it all does rely on you, and there's a lot to do. The to-do list is always too long, so you might as well be doing something to make sure that if you break
Yes.
you don't break, or at least if you do break, it's quick, so you can go aside. Otherwise it's hard, it's impossible, and business is so hard. When you do get down days, it is overwhelming. It just is for all of us.
Absolutely. I guess the lessons we've kind of almost touched on before, but it's worth saying again, is be proactive, not reactive to the world around you, and enjoy experimenting on yourself to find what works best. And in fact, it's better to experiment on yourself when you're feeling good rather than when you're at breaking point, because when you're at breaking point, you're not really paying enough attention. You're kind of just in survival mode. So it's those two things of being proactively always thinking about who you're becoming and engaging in that vision of you and your future, and working towards it, and experimenting with new things. That's when you can create habits that are going to be of benefit to you. And not everything is right for everyone. You've got to find what's right for you. So we're just sharing what works for us.
And I was going to say, that brings me to something that neither of us have really spoken about, which is what people mostly think about with health, which is exercise in the gym. Like you said, it's something you used to do, but you don't really do so much anymore. I have to say, I don't do much exercise. I'm not a big exercise fan. I definitely don't like the gym. I used to go a bit, but I've never been a gym fan. So I'd just love to get your opinion on that side, and how that can be helpful, or more importantly, how it could actually be unhelpful.
Right. Yes. So here's the thing. I mean, exercise, similar to intermittent fasting, there's literally very few downsides, and it's one of the best things to regulate hormones and make you feel better, and boost your testosterone, or estrogen and testosterone for women. And it's absolutely, if you want to live a long life, it's good. And you only need to look at some of the blue zones where people live to into their hundreds. Generally speaking, there's an element of exercise that comes in, whether they live on a steep hill or climb lots of steps, or do lots of dancing in groups and families and things like that. There's always an element of exercise, fun exercise, that's part of their life. So I think exercise is absolutely essential, whether it's walking, vigorous walking, getting your heart pumping means that your blood will flow better and almost clears out and has better access to your brain and to the muscles. Exercise is absolutely essential, and particularly for men, a bit of weightlifting has been scientifically proven to be very beneficial too, almost more so than some of the long distance running and cycling and things like that, which can be a bit more detrimental to some of the joints if you're not careful. But finding an exercise that either you can build into your day, so for example, a commute to work where you have to cycle, you have to walk, or you have to take a train, but then you get off a stop early and walk that last bit, just where you can build it into your routine of the day. That is where it becomes not optional. You have to do it, right? As part of getting to work, for example. That's a great thing to put in place. I deliberately take my son to the athletics track because there's a gym there. Therefore, I feel awful if I don't go to the gym, and I find it benefits me an awful lot to do a bit of weightlifting, because men have that kind of need to lift weights and boost that testosterone to keep us healthy. So I'm a big fan of exercise, little and often, not too much. I also do really enjoy a morning cycle these days. I've got a turbo trainer, and I feel awesome and really energized if I do a 40-minute cycle in the morning on my turbo trainer.
I think that is brilliant. I think it brings me to what I think is the important thing to note in this is one of the main reasons exercise is really good for you is to do with your hormones and your chemicals.
Yes.
And this is a part of health that most people are ignoring entirely. They just don't even think about it. So we've got all these hormones and chemicals in the body that are driving us, driving our moods, driving our happiness levels, driving our ability to even, find energy. And exercise is fantastic for you because it releases that testosterone and because it releases some adrenaline into the system, and it gets you revved up, and it actually gets you into a really good emotional state from the chemicals, because that's what emotions are, right? They're just chemicals. Exactly. So you're basically just doing an activity to create a chemical response in the body that gets you into a peak zone and keeps the body fit and keeps it in peak physical condition. You talk about the blood flow as well. That's all about making sure you haven't got too much carbon dioxide in the body and getting to the right things to the right parts of the body, so it's not too stagnant, and that helps to flush out systems, flushing out toxins. There's obviously so many benefits to exercise, and I would just add one other element to it is just being aware of the type of exercise you're doing or how you're exercising alongside the type of stresses you're taking on, because there is an element of certain exercise is going to release more of certain hormones. And one example is if you are going through adrenal fatigue, for example, which might be something that anyone who goes through burnout could well be in adrenal fatigue. And adrenal fatigue is where your adrenaline gland, the gland that releases that adrenaline into your system, because you've been too stressed too long, that adrenaline gland has just kept releasing adrenaline over and over again every time you're stressed, every day, and it eventually wears out and it gets fatigued. And what that means is the body, it says, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep releasing adrenaline and cortisol into your system. It's too much. So it gives up. And that is often the big cause for depression. It puts all the chemicals out, and you lose all your mojo. Now, if you're going through a form of burnout, for example, it might be that certain types of exercise are pushing on that gland and trying to force it to work because it's bringing more adrenaline, trying to ask for adrenaline. And you're sitting there thinking, oh, no, if I exercise, I'm just going to feel good, because that's the habit you've created. But it might be that at certain times that habit might be detrimental because it's pushing on a gland that isn't wanting to work, and you need to just take a different tack, take a different approach. And that means maybe doing a walk instead of a run, or doing something to get the blood pumping but not the adrenaline going. So it's just being aware that this is holistic picture. We're looking at the body as a whole, and our job is to keep it in prime physical condition. That doesn't mean just prime muscles or prime strength of heart. That means everything working in harmony and in balance, and being aware that if things don't feel right, if you're too often down, your emotions aren't quite working right, you're not in that motivational state, that could just be a chemical thing inside. That it could be that you're working too hard on the you could be working too hard in your workouts, and it's actually draining your system. Or it could be you're eating the wrong foods, or it could be that you need a supplement to support a gland. Like, for example, in adrenal fatigue, there are 3 well-known herbs that are known to help that and help support that gland, but they're not necessarily going to be prescribed for you by your doctor, for example. So I think it's this balance part and an awareness and an understanding of this system of our body and how it operates. And you and I, we're only sitting here talking about it because we've read and watched so much to try and educate ourselves. So I just like the education piece, Dom. You're obviously, this is your bag, this is your thing. You're sit on business coaching calls with hundreds of clients, giving them advice on their health. Just how do you go about it? Like, what do you read? What do you choose to read or watch? How do you do it?
So it's an ongoing sporadic thing throughout the year. I'll have all sorts of different books on the go, but there's usually always 1 or 2 that I'm reading around health, because it's just so important. If you haven't got your health, you haven't got anything. Doesn't matter how much money you make. You haven't got your health, you can't spend it, you're dead. So health is actually a form of wealth. And so learning about it is an ongoing thing that I think never ends. So if you wanted to start with something, there's a lovely book by a lady called Jessie Inshosep called Glucose Revolution. And that's really understanding how food affects your glucose spikes. So, it's the sugar in your blood effectively. And then your sugar in blood is taken out by your insulin, which you produce in your body. But every time you eat, you're producing insulin, and it's the number of spikes that you have that basically means how much weight you hold on to. So what we want to do is flatten those spikes of glucose in your blood by eating in the right order. So very simple. She's got like 5 hacks, very simple hacks, and one of them is eat your vegetables first, then your protein, and then lastly your carbohydrates, because your carbohydrates would cause you to release the most insulin fastest, and that can change your insulin spike, and that whether you feel tired or not a few hours after that meal, by up to 75%. There's a 75% difference in your energy levels if you eat the food in the right order. Wow. So that one tip is fantastic. So reading her book or getting her tips is brilliant, and that's been a really big one that I would suggest. If you're really extreme, you and I both know Dave Asprey, who wrote the book Game Changers, and that was following 500 plus interviews with experts. And he's all about living to 180 and doing every single hack that's possible to, he's a real extremist. He's kind of a bit of a Marmite guy. He used to be a vegan, now very much a meat eater, and promoting the benefits of eating meat and other things like that. So anyway, love or hate him, he's got some very interesting in-depth studies, or use other people's in-depth studies to give some good tips that might or might not work for you. So he's another one. Game Changers, the book, not the TV program, is another good one for people to read. And as you say, it's holistic. So another one that we haven't yet touched on is sleep. Sleep is absolutely essential. The most important hour of the day, believe it or not, is not your first hour of the day. It's actually the last hour of the day. What you do last thing before bed, before you go to sleep, is going to basically dictate how you function the next day. And most people are stimulating themselves with phones and TV and other things like that. And actually what we need to be doing is unplugging from technology, maybe ideally journaling, writing, and reflecting on what went well today, where was I at my peak state, and why. Because reflection time is a brilliant way of learning what makes you better. You can learn by repetition, that's one thing, but you can learn really deep insights by reflecting on the day, reflecting on the week, reflecting on the conversations, whatever it might be, reflecting, going, what went well, what was my best time, and using that to form who you're becoming the next day, to optimize yourself. So your last hour before bed, make that golden hour where there's no technology and you're just getting into a nice state, ready for sleep, so that you optimize your sleeping time, you wake up naturally, and then obviously have a great morning routine, as we've discussed already in other podcasts. But what are your thoughts on sleep? What do you do, and what works for you?
Well, actually, I've got one of these fitness trackers, like a very sophisticated one called a Whoop, and I listen to him a lot. But he's telling me if I've had the right amount of sleep, how much sleep I need to have. But he's helpful. But I think the most important thing, really, with sleep, from what I understand and everything I've read, is just keeping the routine the same. If you can go to bed at the same time every night and get up at the same time every morning, and if you can try and get that routine and you do it to the right number of hours, you're just optimizing your body, creating a great habit to follow the same circadian rhythm every time. And you're completely right, Dom. The hour before bedtime, essential. I think I was thinking, just when you're talking about what reading these books and things, I think people often say, I don't have enough time to read books, and I don't have enough time to kind of learn more about this. Well, my answer to that would be there is always time for what you need to do, right? You choose what you prioritize. And I think the most important thing here is that this is literally probably one of the most important things to both your life and your business, to everything. Because if you can get this part sorted, your business will go better. You'll be in flow more. You'll have more energy. Things will go better just all round in your life. You'll be happier. You'll be healthier. You'll live longer. There's just so many benefits to this. So if you're sitting there thinking, I've got this big vision of where I want to be, and I'm building this business for that thing, or I'm doing this thing in life to achieve that end, well, what we're talking about here is probably the most important thing to get you there. If you're someone who reads books about business and growing your business, or different techniques for managing your team, or any of this type of stuff, that's like a tiny niche part of making your business a bit better. Whereas what we're talking about now, if you can solve it, will make everything better. It'll make better how you interact with your team, how you are in day-to-day life, how productive you are. If you can get into flow more often, flow state means if you can get into proper flow state, it's been proven to be 500% more productive than if you're not in flow. 5 times. That means if you could be in that state all the time, you could do 5 days work in one day. I mean, that is the most powerful thing we can bring to our businesses and to our lives, to have a better time. So for me, the routine of going to bed and getting up in the morning, I have books that I read. I have health books, I have spiritual books, these things that are all to do with the bigger holistic picture of who I am. They all happen in that hour before bedtime.
Nice.
I don't like to journal. I know journaling is very good for you. I don't like to do it. I think I partly do it I journal through words with my wife, with Jackie. She's a good listener, so I will often just talk about what's occurring and what's going through my mind. And we've got a very good, healthy relationship in that way. We can just talk and the other person listens. So I might get some of that out there, but really for me, it's about that calming down, no more phones past a certain time, and just, we put on some nice music, just get into bed and read a book that's really helpful in this area. And then the same in the morning, I wake up, have a cup of tea, no phone yet, and go on to just a nice book that keeps enlivening the mind and learning more and keeping that open mind to just know that what you know now is not everything there is to know. It's a tiny part of what there is to know. So you might as well keep learning more. And what Dave Asprey thought veganism was good, and then he changed his mind to meat, he'll probably change his mind again in 10 years time as more.
Exactly. Research. Absolutely. New research comes out, change their mind. Yeah, you're so right, Dave. It is so important to continually learn. We never stop learning new stuff. And a lot of people, they say, oh no, but I don't like listening to a book or a podcast because I want to write it down or remember it. It's like, let go of that. You're never going to remember everything anyway. Personally, if it's a really, really good point, really good insight, I'm like, oh, that's genius, I need to use that. I will stop, I'll pause, I'll hit record on the voice recorder, and I'll record and I'll say it. So when I'm saying it, so that's one way of learning it too. I've got the recording so I can go back to it. But that's quite rare. I just don't worry about trying to remember everything. And it's like, if you put your finger in a pot of honey, not all the honey's going to come out anything, but some of it will. Some of it's going to stick. And if you're learning every single day, just a little bit, even if it's 5-10 minutes, and you listen to one podcast like this, for example, and you get an insight or two, you might remember that, and it will benefit you for maybe a period of time, or possibly for the rest of your life. You do that every single day, you're continually getting better. And that's absolutely essential, because we need to. It's a fundamental human need is to grow, is to improve at what that's the thing. The brain is a goal seeking, or it's an improvement making machine. It always wants more to create, and that's why it's so important to keep learning. That's another true health habit that is definitely a good one.
Thank you so much for joining us on this latest episode of Property Lifestyle Mastery. If you're enjoying listening to the show and you want to know how else you can connect with us, head on over to our website, which is property-strategy.com. There you can find our social media links. You can also reach out and send us a message to let us know what you think of the show. And if you want to know how you can work with us, you can check out the programs area of our website too. We also send out a regular insights email bulletin, just to keep you thinking about these different elements of how you can build a successful property investment company that truly serves you and gives you freedom. So do go and check us out at www.property-strategy.com and do connect with us. We would love to hear from you. Next week, we are joined by some amazing special guests, Nisha and Jazz of Castlewood Homes. And that's myself and Dave speaking with Nisha and Jazz about creating a successful business partnership with your life partner. Just throw that bombshell in there at the end. There's a lot else to think about when you're building a business with your life partner. So we'll be going into all of that. So until next week, have a great week ahead.